Inspira Tales. In a dusty antique shop at the edge of town, there stood a grand wooden cuckoo clock. It was an ornate thing, carved with ivy and tiny woodland creatures, its pendulum swaying with patient certainty. But inside, behind the tiny wooden doors, lived the clockbird, a peculiar little creature with brass-tipped feathers and eyes like winding keys. Unlike ordinary cuckoo birds, which emerge precisely on the hour, this one had no such discipline. It would burst forth at random moments, sometimes 3 minutes past the hour, sometimes at half past nothing, sometimes in the dead of night when no one was there to listen. It sang its bright, clear note whenever it pleased, unbothered by the rigid march of time. The shopkeeper, Mr. Rivner, found this infuriating. "You are a clockbird," he scolded. "Your purpose is to mark the hours." The bird tilted its tiny head. "What are hours?" it asked. Mr. Rivner sighed, adjusting his spectacles. "Hours are how we make sense of time. Morning, noon, evening, night. They happen in order. You must sing when the clock tells you to." Yet Mr. Rivner had lived outside of time, even if he did not realize it. Not that time didn't pass. Of course it did. The clocks ticked, the days faded. But he had never felt time slipping through his fingers, never chased the minutes, not while the clockbird sang as it pleased. The little cuckoo had always been unpredictable, bursting from its wooden doors at odd moments, sometimes twice in an hour, sometimes not at all for hours on end. Its song had no pattern, no schedule. But because of that, Mr. Rivner had never truly noticed time passing. It had always been now. Yet customers complained. "Your clock is broken," they said. "It chimes at the wrong times." No one wanted a cuckoo that could not be trusted. One day, fed up, Mr. Rivner decided to fix the bird. He carefully opened the clock, reached inside, and grasped the tiny creature in his palm. Its heart ticked like a winding watch. As he adjusted the bird's tiny mechanisms, he muttered, "You must sing at the right time." The clockbird, its brass-feathered body still in his hands, blinked at him with its keyhole eyes. "What is the right time?" it asked. "The hour, the minute. That's how time works." The bird let out a soft ticking sound, something like laughter. "Time only rules you because you chase it," it said. "There is only now. Always now." But Mr. Rivner shook his head and finished his work. And when the bird sang right on the hour, everything changed. The days became measured, the hours divided. With each chime, he became more aware of time slipping away. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Before, when the bird sang at random, it had been easy to ignore time, easy to live in the moment, whether it was morning, evening, or something in between. But now, with each measured call, he felt himself aging, second by second, minute by minute. He no longer savored his tea. He no longer lost himself in a book or the quiet joy of fixing an old watch. He was always aware of time slipping away. And the clockbird, his clockbird, felt like a stranger. Then one day a customer came into the shop, a tall man with curious eyes. "What a fine clock," the man said, admiring the cuckoo clock. "And it keeps such perfect time." Mr. Rivner hesitated. "Yes, it does. I'd like to buy it." Something in Mr. Rivner's chest twisted. He wanted to say no, but what was the point? The clockbird wasn't the same anymore. It was just another clock. So he sold it. The shop felt empty without it. The other clocks continued their steady ticking, their pendulums swaying like metronomes of inevitability. But none of them sang. None of them had that spark of defiance, that playful disregard for time's rigid rules. Each second rang out like a whisper of mortality now. Tick, you are older. Tick, another moment gone. Soon he started counting the hours, minutes, seconds, unable to control it. Each tick of the clock brought him closer to his end. As hours turned into days, and days into weeks, just at 13 past 2 o'clock, the tall man returned, the cuckoo clock in his arms. "This clock is broken," he said, frowning. "It sings at the wrong times." Mr. Rivner's heart leapt. He took the clock back with a steadying breath, his hands trembling, not with age but with relief. That night he opened the wooden doors of the cuckoo clock. The clockbird tilted its head, its eyes no longer cold and mechanical, but glinting with something mischievous, something alive. "You were never broken," Mr. Rivner murmured. The bird let out a tiny chirp. And the next day, when the clockbird sang, at 13 minutes past nothing, at half past forever, Mr. Rivner smiled, closed his eyes, and let time slip away. Because it was now, and it would always be now. We escape from the illusion of time when we stop chasing the hours and embrace the beauty of the present moment, just like the timeless singing of the clockbird. Time is not something to chase, but something to live within. True joy comes from embracing the moment, free from the rigid rules of the clock. The present is where life truly unfolds, beyond the ticking of the clock. Life is always now.